Can't afford my kids? What a loser. My sister mocked me, even though I never agreed to pay for them. Next day, when I told her I was done paying for everything, Aunt Linda screamed, "You're abandoning your own family." Hey, Reddit. I'm Michael, 32. I work 2 jobs, construction during the day and security at night, barely keeping up with bills. I have a 6-year-old son, Liam, and every dollar I make is supposed to go toward building a future for him. But for the last 6 months, I've been paying for more than just my own kid. 6 months ago, my sister Sarah showed up at my door with a suitcase and 2 kids in tow. Her landlord kicked her out, her ex wasn't paying child support, and she had nowhere else to go. Just for a couple of weeks, she had promised, eyes wide with desperation. Until I figure things out. I should have known better. Weeks turned into months. She didn't look for a job, didn't try to save money. Instead, she settled in, treating my house like her own while I covered everything: groceries, rent, utilities, school supplies. At first, I told myself it was temporary, that I was helping family. But as time passed, I realized she had no intention of standing on her own 2 feet. I barely had time to sit down before her kids started tearing into the food I had bought, again. My legs ached from another 16-hour shift, but Sarah didn't even glance at me as she refilled her glass of soda, acting like I was nothing more than a delivery service. So, I cleared my throat, rubbing my sore hands together. I want to talk to you about the money. I can't keep covering everything for you and the kids. I have my own child to take care of, and I just can't afford it anymore. Sarah's fork clattered onto her plate. She blinked at me, then let out a sharp laugh. You can't afford it? She mocked. You have a job, don't you? I inhaled deeply, trying to stay calm. That's not the point. I'm already paying for my son's school, our rent, bills. Oh, come on, she interrupted, rolling her eyes. You don't even have a mortgage. You're just being selfish. Selfish. The word made my stomach tighten. I had heard it before, many times. A memory flashed in my mind. The day she moved in, she had been all gratitude and promises. I'll help out with groceries, she had said, unpacking her bags in my living room. I'll get a job soon. Just need a little time. At first, she did little things, cooked dinner a couple of times, picked Liam up from school when I worked late. But as weeks passed, the job hunt never happened. Instead, she spent her days on the couch, scrolling through her phone, while I worked myself to exhaustion. And now, months later, she wasn't asking anymore, she was demanding. I clenched my jaw. Selfish? Sarah, I've been helping you for 6 months. Groceries, school supplies, daycare. And now you expect me to cover extracurriculars, tutors, new clothes every season. When does it stop? Her voice rose. When does it stop? When I don't need it anymore? That's what family does, or at least that's what real brothers do. I exhaled sharply, gripping the edge of the table. Sarah, I never agreed to raise your kids. They're not mine. That's when she smirked. That cruel little smirk I'd seen too many times before. She leaned forward, voice dripping with mockery. Can't afford my kids? What a loser. Her words hit me like a slap. But the worst part? The kids were right there, listening, watching. And that was the moment I decided enough was enough. After that dinner, I barely slept. I tossed and turned, replaying Sarah's words in my head. Can't afford my kids? What a loser. I had spent half a year keeping a roof over her head, feeding her kids, and making sure they had everything they needed. And that was the thanks I got? She didn't just feel entitled to my help, she thought it was my duty. By the time my alarm rang at 5 a.m., my exhaustion had been replaced with something else, cold, hard realization. I had let this happen. How it got this bad. Sarah wasn't always like this. Or maybe she was, and I just didn't see it. Growing up, our family was far from rich. Our dad worked as a mechanic, and our mom took part-time jobs here and there, but money was always tight. I got my first job at 15, bussing tables at a diner, while Sarah got to focus on school. The difference was clear early on. I was expected to work for what I wanted, while Sarah was used to getting things handed to her. When she got pregnant with her first kid at 22, my parents stepped in to help. When she had her second, they stretched their budget even thinner. And when their health started declining, Sarah's help turned into a constant string of requests. Just this once, Mikey. I promise I'll pay you back. That was 4 years ago. At first, I didn't mind. It was small things, covering a bill here, buying groceries there. Then it was daycare fees. Then rent. Then school clothes for the kids. And before I knew it, I was the one responsible for keeping her afloat. And she never, not once, said thank you. Instead, she acted like it was expected, like I owed her for simply existing. And I let her. The breaking point. That morning, I got up, pulled on my work boots, and left without a word. I wasn't ready for another argument. But when I got home that evening, Sarah was waiting. "Michael, we need to talk," she said, arms crossed. I sighed, already exhausted. "About what?" She scoffed. "About what you said last night. You embarrassed me in front of my kids." I blinked. "You embarrassed yourself. They're scared now, thinking we won't have food or a place to live," she continued, as if I was the bad guy here. I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Sarah, I never said I was kicking you out. I said I can't pay for everything anymore." "Same thing." She shot back. "If you stop helping, how are we supposed to survive?" "You get a job," I said simply. Sarah rolled her eyes. "It's not that easy. I have 2 kids. What do you expect me to do, work at a grocery store for minimum wage?" I stared at her. "Yes, actually." She laughed. "Unbelievable." And then, in that moment, I realized she had no intention of ever working. Not because she couldn't, but because she didn't want to. Why would she? She had me. "You know what, Michael," she said, shaking her head. "I always knew you were selfish, but this? You're abandoning your own family. If Mom and Dad were still here, they'd be ashamed of you." That was it. That was the final straw. I felt my hands clench into fists, but I forced myself to stay calm. "No, Sarah. If Mom and Dad were still here, they'd tell you to stop acting like a spoiled brat." Her face turned red. "That's enough." "No," I said, grabbing my jacket. "I'm done with this." And for the first time in my life, I meant it. I always thought there would be some big moment, a massive argument, a screaming match, something dramatic that would finally make me walk away. Turns out, all it took was one simple realization: Sarah was never going to change. After our last argument, I stopped doing extra for her. I still let her and the kids stay, but I didn't buy extra groceries, I didn't cover school supplies, and I didn't give her cash whenever she ran out. And Sarah? She lost it. The manipulation begins. It started small, her sighing loudly whenever she opened the fridge, shaking her head dramatically when she had to make peanut butter sandwiches instead of ordering takeout. Then came the guilt trips. "Michael, the kids need new clothes. You really can't help, just this once? Liam has everything he needs. My kids should have the same. You used to be such a good brother. What happened to you?" And when none of that worked, she turned to the one thing she knew had always worked before: our family. The family ambush. A week after I cut her off, I came home to find my Aunt Linda, my cousin Rachel, and even my grandmother waiting for me in my own house. Sarah sat in the middle of them, fake tears running down her face. "Oh, here he is." Aunt Linda snapped, arms crossed. "The man who abandoned his own family." I sighed, already exhausted. "Sarah, what is this?" My grandmother shook her head. "Mikey, honey, your sister told us everything. She told us how you kicked her out with nowhere to go, how her children are starving, and how you—" I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. "I didn't kick her out. She still lives here." Aunt Linda scoffed. "Oh, so what? You're just refusing to help? With kids in the house." "Her kids. Not mine," I said firmly. "I'm already giving them a roof over their heads. She's had 6 months to get a job, and she hasn't even tried. She's a mother." Rachel chimed in. "Do you know how hard it is for a single mom to work?" "I know plenty of single moms who work full-time and still take care of their kids," I shot back. "And Sarah? She doesn't even try. She just waits for someone else to fix her problems." Sarah wiped her fake tears and sniffled. "You don't understand, Michael. I'm trying, but it's so hard." "No, Sarah. I'm trying," I snapped. "I work 16 hours a day. I barely see my own son because I'm too busy paying for a house that you live in for free. And instead of being grateful, you call me a loser and run to the family to play the victim." Silence. Aunt Linda shifted uncomfortably. My grandmother looked away. Even Rachel, who always took Sarah's side, suddenly wasn't making eye contact. Sarah, realizing she was losing, went for her final move, the big guilt trip. "Fine," she shouted. "If you don't want to help your own family, just say it. You're abandoning me, just like Mom and Dad abandoned us." And that was the moment I snapped. The final blow. "You want to talk about Mom and Dad?" I said, voice shaking with anger. "Fine. Let's talk about them." I stepped forward, staring Sarah down. "When Mom and Dad got sick, who was the one taking them to their doctor's appointments?" Silence. "When they couldn't afford their medication, who was the one covering the bills?" Sarah swallowed. "You, but..." Who put their life on hold for 2 years to take care of them while you were out partying and pretending none of it was happening? Her face turned pale. Don't you dare act like we're the same, I hissed. You weren't abandoned. You ran away when things got hard. And now you expect me to clean up your mess, just like I did back then. More silence. I turned to my aunt and cousin. You all want to help her so badly? Go ahead. Open your homes. Open your wallets. Pay for her bills. Aunt Linda looked horrified. Well, I mean, I would, but But what? I interrupted. But it's too much? But you can't afford it. I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, imagine that. Sarah sat frozen, eyes darting around, realizing that no one was jumping to her defense anymore. I took a deep breath and made my final decision. You have 1 month, Sarah, I said coldly. 1 month to get a job and figure things out. Because on the 1st of next month, you're out. Sarah's eyes widened. You can't be serious. Watch me. And with that, I turned and walked away. After I told Sarah she had 1 month to find a job or move out, I expected some kind of effort. Maybe she'd apply for a few positions, at least pretend she was trying. But Sarah? She doubled down. For the first week, she acted like nothing had changed. She still lounged on the couch all day, scrolling through her phone. She still let the kids run wild without lifting a finger. She still rolled her eyes whenever I came home exhausted from work. And when I reminded her of the deadline, "Oh, please," she scoffed. "You'd never actually kick out your own family." That was when I realized she wasn't just using me. She truly believed she was entitled to everything I had. And that's when I stopped feeling guilty. The countdown begins. By the second week, word had spread through the family. My Aunt Linda called, furious. Michael, this is ridiculous. You can't just throw your sister and your poor nieces onto the street. They're not on the street, I said, pinching the bridge of my nose. She has 2 more weeks to figure it out. You're giving her a deadline? What is this, an eviction notice? Yes, I said bluntly. That's exactly what it is. That shut her up. After that, the calls started coming in nonstop. Some were full of outrage, others tried guilt. But the best one? My grandmother. Mikey, sweetheart, she sighed. I know Sarah can be difficult, but family sticks together. Wouldn't your parents want you to help her? I took a deep breath. Grandma, if Mom and Dad were alive, they'd tell Sarah to get off her ass and stop acting like a child. Silence. Then a quiet, well, you might be right about that. One by one, the family started backing off. No one actually wanted Sarah in their house. They wanted me to keep playing the role of the responsible one so they wouldn't have to. Too bad for them. That job was officially closed. Sarah's final play. By the 3rd week, Sarah started panicking. At first, she tried being nice. She suddenly offered to cook dinner. She asked about my day. She even brought me a coffee when I came home late one night. I didn't buy it. Then she tried guilt. So, I applied for a job today, she said one evening, staring at her phone. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Where? She shrugged. I don't know. Some online thing. What's the position? Another shrug. Something remote. Customer service, I think. I stared at her. Did you actually apply? Or did you just look at the job listing? She glared at me. Oh my God, why are you interrogating me? At least I'm trying. I sighed. You have 1 week left, Sarah. She huffed and stomped off like a child. And then, the final stage, anger. A few days later, I came home to find her pacing the kitchen, furious. I can't believe you're really doing this, she screamed the moment I walked through the door. I tossed my keys on the counter. Doing what, exactly? Kicking out your own family, she shrieked. I exhaled. Sarah, I gave you a month. A month. A month is nothing, she yelled. Do you know how hard it is to find a job? To find a place to live? I crossed my arms. No harder than working 2 jobs to support other people's kids for 6 months. That shut her up for a second. But then her eyes narrowed. You're a monster. I laughed. I'm a monster for expecting you to act like an adult? You're ruining my life, she screamed. No, I said, voice steady. I'm finally forcing you to take responsibility for it. And for the first time, Sarah had no response. Moving day. The night before the deadline, Sarah tried one last trick. I was in my room when I heard soft knocking on my door. Michael. I sighed. What's Sarah? The door cracked open. She stood there, looking small, like the little sister I used to protect. Are you really making me leave? She whispered. I nodded. Yeah, I am. She bit her lip. But where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Figure it out. She stared at me, waiting for me to cave. waiting for the old Michael to come back. But that guy? He was gone. She turned on her heel and slammed the door. The next morning, I left for work early. I didn't want to be there when she left. When I came home, the house was quiet. Sarah was gone. No note. No text. Nothing. I checked her room empty. The kids' things gone. For the first time in 6 months, my house actually felt like mine again. I sat on the couch, let out a long breath, and closed my eyes. It was over. Epilogue, a message from Sarah. A few days later, my phone buzzed. Sarah, I hope you're happy. The kids are miserable. I don't know how you sleep at night. I stared at the message for a long moment before typing my response. Me, better than I have in years. And I meant it. It's been a few months since Sarah moved out, and I can honestly say, I have never felt lighter. For 6 months, I let guilt and obligation weigh me down, draining my bank account and my sanity. But the moment she walked out that door, it was like a chain had snapped. No more tiptoeing around my own house. No more watching my groceries disappear overnight. No more coming home after a 16-hour shift to hear, we're out of milk. Can you pick some up? It was just me and my son, Liam, again. And that felt like peace. Where did Sarah go? I found out later that Sarah had moved in with Aunt Linda. Fitting, since Linda had been the loudest about how cruel I was for abandoning my sister and her kids. For the first few weeks, I heard nothing. Then, one day, I got a text from my cousin Rachel. Rachel, guess who's getting a taste of her own medicine? I didn't respond right away, but my curiosity got the better of me. Me, what do you mean? Rachel sent a laughing emoji. Rachel, Aunt Linda kicked her out. I blinked at the screen. Me, you're joking. Rachel, nope. Mom couldn't handle her either. She expected to stay there for free, just like with you. Lasted about 2 months before Mom told her to either get a job or get out. She got out. Apparently, Sarah had pulled the same routine at Linda's house, lounging around, expecting someone else to pay for everything, making excuses about how hard it was to be a single mom. And just like me, Linda got fed up. At first, Sarah tried her usual tactics, guilt trips, excuses, even tears. But Linda wasn't having it. One day, she packed Sarah's bags, put them by the door, and told her, figure it out. Sarah and the kids ended up renting a cheap apartment on the other side of town. And for the first time in years, she had to get a job. My first real break in years. Without Sarah and her kids draining my finances, I finally had some breathing room. I took Liam to the zoo for the first time in over a year. We had a real father-son day, ice cream, feeding giraffes, laughing until our stomachs hurt. I fixed up my car instead of dumping more money into someone else's bills. I even started saving for a down payment on a house, a place that would be ours, not one where I had to house freeloaders. And the best part? I wasn't constantly exhausted anymore. When you stop carrying weight that isn't yours, you finally realize how heavy it was. Sarah's last attempt at manipulation. A month after she moved out, Sarah texted me. Sarah, I hope you're happy. The kids miss you. You didn't just abandon me, you abandoned them too. I stared at the message for a long moment before replying. Me, I didn't abandon them, Sarah. I abandoned you. She didn't respond. Final thoughts. For years, I let Sarah treat me like a wallet instead of a brother. I let her take advantage of my kindness, my guilt, my sense of responsibility. But family isn't about using each other. Family isn't about making one person sacrifice everything while the other sits back and takes. Sarah thought I would always be there to clean up her messes. She thought I'd always be too guilty to say no. But the truth is, the second I stopped letting her take advantage of me, she figured it out on her own. She always could take care of herself. She just didn't want to. And that's the biggest lesson I learned. People will take from you as long as you let them. But the second you stop giving, they'll figure out how to survive without you. And you'll finally get to live. Final update. I honestly didn't think my post would get so much attention. I figured a few people might comment, maybe share their thoughts, but the overwhelming support and even the criticism caught me off guard. Reading through everyone's responses made me realize just how many people have been in similar situations, dealing with entitled family members and struggling to set boundaries. I wanted to take some time to acknowledge both the support and the criticism I received because, trust me, I saw all of it. The supportive comments. A lot of people reassured me that I did the right thing by standing up for myself and putting my son first. Many pointed out that Sarah had every opportunity to find work and contribute, but instead chose to do nothing. Others shared their own experiences of being used by family members and how hard it was to finally break free from that cycle. A few single parents even commented, saying that they work full-time jobs while raising their children without expecting handouts. That really hit home for me because it proved that Sarah wasn't struggling due to bad luck. She was struggling because she refused to help herself. Some people were especially angry about the fact that Sarah insulted me while eating food I paid for, and honestly, that was my breaking point too. It was the moment I realized she didn't just expect my help, she thought she deserved it, no matter how much it drained me. And then there were the people who just wanted to know what happened after Linda kicked Sarah out. To those of you who asked, yes, Sarah was forced to get a job. From what I heard, she's working retail now, long hours, minimum wage, and she hates it. But that's life. She finally has to take responsibility for herself. The criticism. Of course, not everyone agreed with how I handled things. Some people thought I was too harsh, that I should have given Sarah more time or at least continued helping for the sake of the kids. I get that. I really do. The idea of kicking out children isn't something I took lightly. But at the end of the day, Sarah is their parent, not me. It was never my job to provide for them. Others argued that life is expensive and not everyone can just find a job so easily. And while I understand that, I also know that Sarah never tried. If she had put in even the smallest amount of effort, I wouldn't have been forced to take such a drastic step. There were also comments saying that 1 month wasn't enough time for her to get back on her feet. But the truth is, she had 6 months of completely free housing before I gave her a deadline. If she had been looking for work during that time, she wouldn't have needed any extra help. The 1-month deadline was just me finally holding her accountable. Some people accused me of abandoning my family, saying that I should have continued supporting Sarah no matter what. But to those people, I ask, at what point would it have been enough? Another 6 months? A year? 5 years? There was no end in sight. If I hadn't drawn a line, she would have continued taking from me forever. Final thoughts. At the end of the day, I have no regrets. My home is finally peaceful. My finances are stable again. Most importantly, I have more time and energy to spend with my son, who deserves a father that isn't constantly exhausted and stressed out. Sarah made her choices. I made mine. And for once, I chose me. Thanks again to everyone who shared their thoughts, whether you agreed with me or not. This whole experience has taught me an important lesson. Families should support each other, but that support should go both ways. For the first time in a long time, I feel free.